welcome. It's Quant.less. We back at it, you already know. Uh yeah. Let's get straight into it, bro. I mean, we're gonna be recapping the trade that I took today. Um Not normally the trade I would have been looking to take as for today, but I was willing to take the risk on some evals as well as a couple of my express accounts. And I didn't record the trade, but I do have the executions posted on my new TikTok. All right. So, yeah, let's get straight into it. Today was honestly pretty I kind of switched my bias midday, and I'll explain that in a second. So, going into today, I was initially going to be bullish as we had a major dump last week, the dump that I've been looking for. But as of today, I gave out my weekly/monthly outlook in my free Discord, which you should go check out. And basically what I explain here is that going into the monthly profile, looking at the higher time frame, we see that we mainly accumulated the first week of December. Regarding that, it seemed we were an AMDX this month, right? First week accumulation, second week manipulation, third week distribution, and fourth week expansion. We are also in a long-term high time frame market maker buy model, going towards all-time highs being the clear objective, which I explained in my previous videos. Ever since we completed the market maker sell model with the October tariff low/DFR low, which if you know what a DFR low is, then good for you. It's quarterly theory based, but if you don't, understood. I explained that in the private part of my server, which I have not released yet, but I will eventually soon in the future. I'm still working on it. However, I explained how ever since that we have expanded greatly. We then took out the short-term, smaller market maker buy model original consolidation highs, as well as the 75% of the 3-month range. We then displaced lower, which confirmed my prediction in the first video that I made, right? Like a week ago maybe or something like that, one of my previous videos, which confirmed my prediction the previous week. We can expect price to reach the 50% of the recent unbalanced range of the expansion since completing the market maker sell model with tariff lows, DFR lows, to then send price higher potentially. So this was after I took this trade, but I had made this full analysis by myself this morning, right? I was basically talking about how YM has already taken out all-time highs, right? Indicating potential bearish displacement lower towards the higher time frame objective, which is the EQ of the unbalanced range. YM is also nowhere near EQ of this market maker sell model completion expansion range, giving even more signs of bearish market retracement, as well as we're currently in a long-term high time frame market maker buy model, objective being all-time highs, right? The unbalanced range being an area in which we can potentially look for longs, as well as a 3-month open aligning with the EQ of the expansions range, and and the monthly cycle profile being AMDX, setting up for distribution towards all-time highs and expanding through. So now let's get straight into the trade recap. So as you can see, as I marked out here, I was initially expecting, as we had that huge dump on Friday, I was like, okay, we are getting really, really close to EQ of this entire expansion range. And I was like, there's a very, very high chance that we are not just going to be having this deep, deep retracement just to take out previous week low and then extremely expand higher. As I explained in previous videos, ICT explains this as well, is that when we are on a run up or a run down, price needs to fill and price needs to rebalance unbalanced ranges to be able to continue with that trend and continue supporting the higher time frame trend/narrative, correct? So going into here, we completed the almost like a lower time frame cleaner, as I explained, market maker buy model's original consolidation highs, as you can see I'll show you on the 4-hour. And now I was expecting for us to have a little bit of a deeper retracement for us to then eventually come back higher at all-time highs. If we run past through this, go lower, which I highly doubt, however, there is a possibility, then we'll just have to see from there. But going into today, my objective was overall trying to take shorts continuously lower and lower and lower for us to eventually reach EQ of this range, of this unbalanced range. Okay, so going into the day, I was bearish. I made this choice a little bit last minute because I was not paying attention to some of this stuff as I was a little busy earlier today. But yeah, So let's get straight into it. We had with Friday, I believe, or on Friday, right? We had multiple weekly cycles. We had 2 weekly cycle sequentials at the highs, supporting continuous bearish momentum, which we dumped on Friday, as I explained, which we can potentially look to take continuations off of that as we continue lower towards the EQ of the ranges I explained. Okay? So now, what did I see here? You see now, obviously, we didn't see a whole lot when it comes to sequentials during the trading day. However, I knew that we were overall going to be bearish considering we had the weekly cycles at the highs, and we were overall looking a lot looking bearish, correct? Now, going on to the daily PO3. If we drop down to the 15-minute, we had a clear daily PO3, daily bearish PO3 forming. We had our accumulation after our daily opened. We had our accumulation, manipulation higher, right? We tapped into a higher time frame PD array, which is our 4-hour fair value gap and our 1-hour fair value gap, which we had here. Okay, and we manipulated higher and then eventually expanded lower, taking out previous day low. Okay, so looking on the daily PO3, it was a bearish PO3 forming, correct? Now, what else did we have? We were ultimately above most, if not all, it's not updated here, but we were above the true opens. Okay, we were above true day open, we were above true month open, and we were above 3-month open, right? The 3-month open range, which I know I get it, that was a little while ago. However, if my objective is for price to eventually reach near that, that is definitely a confluence that I kept in mind as when taking this trade. So now, there was no sequentials at the highs when I specifically took this trade other than a micro sequential SMT, which I'll explain in a second, as that is a little bit a hint of QT, which I will not fully go into depth with sequential SMTs as that's more quarterly theory, but I do explain them in private access. So yeah. So as we came higher, right, we tapped into the higher time frame PD array. We did not have an SMTF, which is an SMT with like tapping into a fair value gap. We did not have an SMTF. However, we rebalanced the previous day's range, like near. If you want to call high of day to low of day, we did not. However, we were quite close to it. But if we want to call this dump, which is what I marked out, we were in premium of that range, as well as we tapped into the higher time frame PD array, and we create an SMT with this 15-minute high. Once we had that, that was right before market open. We had taken out that high, created that SMT. What did we have next? We had this 15-minute swing divergence, which I don't know why it's so small, but here. We had a 15-minute swing divergence, as you can see, as YM does not take out the previous 15-minute candle's high, because if I go like this, they created equal highs, as well as on ES, we clearly did not, as it was minus 0.75, right? So that was a 15-minute swing divergence. Now, time frame alignment tells me that I can go down from the 15-minute to the 1-minute. Now, going down to the 1-minute, we then had a micro sequential with this high. This is the micro sequential SMT that I was telling you guys about. This was the micro sequential right here, as we took out, going into the new microcycle, we took out the previous microcycle's high, while YM did not, and I think ES did, yeah. So going into there, what was I looking for now? There could have been a PSP, swing divergence, anything, right? Well, we had a 1-minute PSP swing. We had a 1-minute PSP as well as a swing divergence. This was also a 15-minute swing divergence, which is why I just stuck with that. But I also saw that right before open, we had created this PSP with this 929 candle. So I was like, okay, I'm indicating more towards me wanting for us to go lower, as I've already explained. I can look for maybe a 15-second entry, as this is looking a lot cleaner. So what did I do? I waited for that 15-second entry. This was my entry. I had my stop at the high. Decently sized stop loss, and I had my take profit, my TP. I TP'd at previous day low, as that was my draw. Quite big trade, I'm not gonna lie. And within not too long after market open, we hit TP. So yeah, that's pretty much my trade recap for the trade that I took today. You should definitely come and check out my free Discord, which I will link in the description if it works, but you should definitely go check out the description. If not, check my bio. It has all my info there in which you can join. I'm starting to give out weekly outlooks as well as weekly market reviews and recaps, calls. Eventually, we're going to get into more teachings and lectures into some of the ways that I trade, like PO3, MMXM, all that good stuff. So stay tuned, join up, let me know. Hit me up with any questions at all if you guys have any in the comments, in my free Discord, anything at all. Keep in touch. Have an absolutely blessed day.